When glass ceilings shatter, who's still locked outside? Today's conversation is inspired by insights from Thasunda Brown Duckett, one of only two Black women leading a Fortune 500 company. Her journey isn't just a story of personal triumph, it's a mirror reflecting the systemic gaps that remain even when we celebrate progress. She spent decades breaking barriers in finance, empowering underserved communities, and proving that leadership rooted in inclusion can transform entire industries. Her impact reminds us that representation isn't just about numbers, it's about who gets to shape the future. Let me ask you something. When we talk about progress for women in corporate America, what story are we really telling? Because here's what the headlines say: Women CEOs in Fortune 500 companies have reached a record high. We're celebrating, we're posting about it, we're calling it a win, and it is. But let me tell you what the headlines don't say. Out of all those women CEOs, only two are Black women, two out of 500. So, yes, glass ceilings are shattering. But here's the question nobody's asking: who's still locked outside the building when those ceilings break? Because the real story isn't just about who made it to the top, it's about who's still waiting for the door to even crack open. It's about the women who have the degrees, the experience, the vision, the grit, but never get the call. It's about the ones who are told they're not quite ready, not quite the right fit, not quite what we're looking for, even though they've been more than ready for years. And here's the part that makes this even more painful. We've been conditioned to believe that progress for all women automatically means progress for Black women. But the data tells a different story, a much harder story, a story that forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that equality isn't equally distributed. Let me paint the picture more clearly. Black women earn about $54,000 a year on average. White men, nearly 90,000. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. And it's not because Black women aren't working hard enough. It's not because they're not educated enough. Black women are among the most educated demographics in this country. They're starting businesses at record rates. They're leading movements. They're holding families together. They're doing everything right. And still, the system rewards them less. The unemployment rate for Black women sits at 7.5%, higher than the national average. And when layoffs happen, who gets hit hardest? Black women, especially in sectors like government, healthcare, education, nonprofits. The very industries where Black women have historically found stability are the same ones cutting them loose first. Now, let's talk about what happens when a Black woman does make it into a leadership role. 60% of Black women report experiencing discrimination in the workplace. That means more than half are navigating bias, microaggressions, being overlooked, being underestimated, being questioned in ways their counterparts never are. And they're doing this while still being expected to perform at the highest level, to be twice as good, to never show frustration, to always be gracious, to carry the weight of representation on their shoulders without ever letting anyone see them sweat. So when we celebrate that there are now two Black women leading Fortune 500 companies, yes, we should celebrate. But we also need to sit with the reality that two out of 500 is not progress. It's a reminder of how far we still have to go. Let me tell you about the Sunda Brown Duckett. She didn't just wake up one day as the CEO of TIAA. She spent years, decades climbing through the ranks at JP Morgan Chase. She led the auto finance business. She became president and CEO of consumer banking. She proved herself over and over and over again. And even then, even with all of that, she's one of only two. Think about that. One of the largest financial institutions in the world, millions of clients, billions of dollars in assets, and the woman leading it is a statistical anomaly. Her story is extraordinary, but it shouldn't be rare. That's the problem. We've made exceptionalism the requirement for Black women to even be considered. You can't just be good. You have to be undeniable. You can't just be qualified, undid. You have to be overqualified. You can't just lead. You have to lead flawlessly while also being a trailblazer, a role model, a symbol, and somehow still be relatable and humble and not too ambitious. The bar isn't just higher, it's on a different planet. And here's what happens when that bar is set so impossibly high: burnout, exhaustion, disillusionment. Black women start asking themselves, is this even worth it? They start looking around and realizing that no matter how hard they work, the system wasn't designed to let them win. So they pivot, they leave, they start their own businesses, they create their own tables because they're tired of waiting for a seat at someone else's. And you know what? That resilience is beautiful, it's powerful, but it's also tragic because it means that the very institutions that need their leadership the most are the ones pushing them out. Let's talk about what this looks like on the ground. Imagine you're a Black woman in middle management. You've been there for 5 years. You've exceeded every goal. You've mentored junior staff. You've led successful projects. You've done everything your white male colleague has done, and then some. But when the promotion comes up, he gets it. And the feedback you get, you're not quite ready yet. Maybe next time. Or imagine you're in a meeting and you share an idea. Crickets. 10 minutes later, a white colleague shares the same idea word for word, and suddenly it's brilliant. Everyone's nodding, everyone's excited, and you're sitting there wondering if you even exist. Or imagine you're constantly being asked to be on the diversity committee, to mentor other Black employees, to speak at events about being a Black woman in corporate America, but none of that work counts towards your performance review. It's just expected. It's just what you do. And if you say no, you're not a team player. This is the reality. This is what 60% of Black women are navigating every single day. And here's the part that makes this even more insidious: the narrative around women's progress in corporate America often erases race entirely. We talk about the gender pay gap, we talk about women in leadership, we talk about breaking glass ceilings, but we rarely break it down by race. We rarely ask which women are actually benefiting from these so called wins. Because when we don't ask that question, we allow ourselves to believe that progress for some women is progress for all women. And that's just not true. The truth is that white women have made significant gains in corporate America, and that's worth celebrating. But those gains haven't translated equally for Black women, Latina women, Indigenous women, Asian women. The experience of womanhood in the workplace is not universal. And until we start acknowledging that, until we start disaggregating the data and looking at who's actually being left behind, we're going to keep celebrating progress that isn't really progress for everyone. So, what do we do? How do we move from two Black women leading Fortune 500 companies to 20 to 200? First, we have to stop treating representation as a favor. It's not about being nice. It's not about checking a box. It's about recognizing that diverse leadership makes organizations stronger, more innovative, more resilient. Study after study shows that companies with diverse leadership teams outperform their competitors. This isn't a moral argument, it's a business argument, and yet we're still acting like it's optional. Second, we have to dismantle the idea that there's only room for one. The one Black woman on the executive team, the one Black woman on the board, the one Black woman in the C suite. This scarcity mindset is a trap. It pits Black women against each other. It makes them feel like they have to compete for a single spot instead of building a pipeline where many can thrive. Third, we have to stop putting the burden of change on Black women themselves. Yes, resilience is powerful. Yes, entrepreneurship is an option. But why should Black women have to leave corporate America to find success? Why should they have to build their own tables instead of being welcomed at the ones that already exist, the responsibility for change doesn't lie with the people being excluded. It lies with the people who built the system. Fourth, we need accountability, not just diversity statements, not just pledges, actual accountability, transparent data on hiring, promotion, and retention by race and gender, regular audits, consequences when goals aren't met. Because without accountability, diversity and inclusion becomes performative. It becomes a press release with no follow through. And finally, we need to change the culture. We need to create workplaces where Black women don't have to code switch, don't have to shrink, don't have to perform a version of themselves that makes others comfortable. We need environments where their full humanity is welcomed, where their leadership style is valued, not just tolerated, where they can show up as themselves and still be seen as professional, competent, and worthy of advancement. This isn't complicated, but it does require us to be uncomfortable. It requires us to admit that the systems we've built, the systems we've benefited from, are fundamentally unfair. And it requires us to do something about it. Because here's the thing: Black women are not the problem, the system is. Black women are not lacking, the opportunities are. Black women are not unqualified, the gatekeepers are biased. And until we name that, until we confront that, until we dismantle that, we're going to keep celebrating record numbers of women CEOs while ignoring that only two of them are Black. So let me leave you with this. The next time you hear about progress for women in corporate America, ask the question, which women? The next time someone tells you that diversity is improving, ask for the data. Break it down by race, break it down by level, break it down by department, because aggregate numbers hide the truth. And if you're in a position of power, if you're hiring, promoting, mentoring, leading, I'm asking you to do more than just acknowledge the problem. I'm asking you to be part of the solution. Sponsor a Black woman, advocate for her promotion, amplify her voice in meetings, challenge bias when you see it. Use your privilege to open doors, not just for one, but for many. And if you're a Black woman listening to this, I see you. I know you're tired. I know you've been fighting battles that others don't even know exist. I know you've been told to wait your turn, to be patient, to prove yourself one more time. But here's what I want you to know: you are enough. You have always been enough. And the world needs your leadership, your vision, your voice. Don't let a broken system convince you otherwise. The glass ceiling is shattering, but it's time we ask who's holding the hammer and who's still waiting outside, watching through the window, wondering if they'll ever get the chance to step inside. Because progress isn't progress if it only works for some of us. Real change means everyone gets a seat, everyone gets a chance, everyone gets to lead, and that's the world I'm fighting for. I hope you'll join me.